Changes of the body in emergency and principles behind the healing of post-traumatic symptoms. After a disaster or a major car accident, people suffer from post-traumatic symptoms such as physical or mental disorders, which is called post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD also occurs when a person directly experiences the devil rampage of his family or abnormal behaviors of animals. The mechanisms of how PTSD occurs are as follows. In a normal situation, all the internal organs of the human body are operated in an orderly way by a single command system centered on the heart, which is the monarch of organs. In an emergency situation, the human body enters an emergency state. Usually, humans are living by using about 70% of the available energy. Even if humans do strenuous physical exercises or high-level mental activities, the human body is set to spend up to 85% of the energy it can use. In a life-threatening urgent situation, the human body enters an emergency state where it can use up 100% of its available energy. To respond to an emergency or urgency, the heart activates the emergency system, in which all the internal organs are allowed to use all their available energies and capabilities. To cope with a life-threatening situation, the heart issues an order to all the internal organs through the brain, so that each organ can overcome a crisis by exerting all its energy and capability. At this moment, superhuman power or superhuman ability is manifested. When a life-threatening urgent situation occurs, the harmony and balance between internal organs is broken, which has been designed to be centered on the heart when creating the human body. In a life-threatening urgent situation, the meridian systems of the human body are overactivated and become extensively damaged. In a life-threatening urgency, the hormones called adrenaline are released in large quantities to cope with strong fear and dread. If the adrenaline is not normally retrieved after it has been released a lot, the body pain as well as the decreased mental activity appears. The terrible experiences which a person has experienced with tremendous fear and dread under the life-threatening urgent situation are stored strongly in his brain and remain as trauma. If the heart-centered command systems between internal organs to cope with an emergency or urgency are not restored to normal after traumatic events, post-traumatic stress disorder occurs. After escaping from the emergency situation, the human body enters the recovery procedure. From the perspective of humans, this procedure appears to happen automatically, like the body's immune response, but it happens by the invisible hand of the heaven. After the emergency situation, the mechanisms by which the human body is healed by the heavenly angels are as follows. Firstly, the heart is healed. The heart, in which the spirit dwells, is the first to be healed. The healing light that comes in through back way of the human body informs the spirit about the stable situation and stabilizes the heart. Secondly, the river is healed. The heavenly light to stabilize the river where the soul indwells is supplied. because muscles become tense in all emergencies. They become excessively rigid and damaged by using excessive force. This heavenly light for the river is also to heal and relax these muscles. Thirdly, the lungs are healed. The heavenly light to heal the lungs, where a bag indwells, is supplied. The lungs are supplied with the healing light, so that the light can be supplied to the damaged cells and tissues of the body through the meridian system. As this heavenly light for the lungs is supplied, the breathing is stabilized, and Hang-gi, which is the function of lungs that drives gi energy, is strengthened, which increases the circulating force of meridian roots. Fourthly, once the breathing and consciousness of a patient returns to normal, the heavenly light enters the heart again. This light entering the heart is to rectify the imbalance between internal organs, with the heart as the center. As the lost balance between internal organs is restored through this heavenly light, a patient quickly recovers physically and mentally after an accident. Fifthly, the heavenly light to stabilize the hyperfunction of the brain comes in to prevent the brain from repeating the terrible scenes that have been strongly remembered in it. Then, the heavenly light to restore the damaged brain cells enters. Because it requires very precise work to restore the brain cells, the person is put to sleep or his brain activity is temporarily degraded. Sixthly, in many post-traumatic symptoms, you may feel something pressing on your chest. This is because Sa-gi, which is degenerated light, and Ta-gi, which is impaired ki energy, get around Danju, which is the mohyul of Sugworum pericardium meridian. After you get a severe mental shock, Sa-gi and Ta-gi periodically accumulate near Danjung. If Sa-gi accumulated near Danjung is not discharged, you frequently let out a sigh and post-traumatic stress disorder occurs. A ray of light comes into your Shimpo, which is the invisible outer layer of the heart. It enters the Shimpo from the heaven to drive out the Sa-gi accumulated at the Shimpo and to help the Shimpo escape from post-traumatic symptoms for itself. This ray of light determines whether or not you will have post-traumatic stress disorder. For most people, this heavenly light does not come in. Most people tend to lead a passive life after a big accident due to severe depression or loss of zest for life. The ray of light that the heaven gives to the Shimpo of a person who has suffered a big accident is the light of celebration and blessing. The Shimpo does not have the power to overcome for itself after a major accident. Like the brain, the Shimpo is an organ that has been set to live by harboring the memories experienced in urgent situations as severe trauma. To determine whether or not a person will suffer PTSD is a ray of light that the heaven gives to his Shimpo. A ray of light given by the heaven to the Shimpo of a person who had a big accident is the light of blessing and salvation for him. Those who hold the promise of the heaven are protected safely from suffering PTSD through this life by the heaven without anybody knowing it. It takes about 2 weeks to more than a month to restore the fine meridian roots and microvessels that have been broken after a trauma. The healing process is consistently carried out by the heaven to restore the intangible systems of the human body that have been damaged after experiencing terrible events or accidents. Depending on the rate of restoration conducted by the heaven for the damaged intangible systems, various post-traumatic physical disorders appear. Depending on the rate of recovery conducted by the heaven for the damaged intangible systems, post-traumatic mental disorders are manifested in various ways. Various post-traumatic stress disorders occur according to the recovery rate conducted by the heaven for the impaired intangible systems. Without the help of the heaven, the maximum recovery rate to recover from PTSD through the natural healing power of the human body is 75%, and it takes at least 6 months to 3 years for healing. If the light of the heaven heals PTSD of the human body, the recovery rate reaches a maximum of 90%, and it takes about 3 months. According to the contents of the program in life, various post-traumatic stress disorders occur. Depending on the content of karma and the way the karma is dissolved, various post-traumatic stress disorders occur. Nothing in the world happens by chance. Life-threatening urgency or emergency never happens by chance. PTSD that occurs after an urgent disaster or a life-threatening urgent emergency is also thoroughly managed by the invisible heaven. In order to unravel and record the principles behind the healing of post-traumatic stress disorder, I, Captain Udeka, leaves this message as a record. July 2nd, in 2021, Udeka wrote,